Uhuru. Ooh. Look at my co-host. Look at
Just,
y'all. Just glowing, just
hello,
beaming.
hello.
That little
We're
brief hiatus
back.
for everybody. Justice. Looking good.
Yes, ma'am. Some beauty sleep, in between seasons until you're back.
It paid
Right.
off.
It did. I mean, not that we wasn't, QP4, but just giving. Summer's here. The glow is here.
Right.
And it's just so good to see you guys. I know it's been a very eventful couple of weeks because just because we weren't here doesn't mean we weren't everywhere else. I know we'll get into that. We'll see that a little bit later. But yeah, how you guys been?
Yeah, it's so good to be back. And then, like just like you said, it's this summer and in the summer, and I'm just myself thinking of, okay, well, what am I going to do here? I don't know about you ladies, but I don't know how to swim. So that's one of the things that I said I want to learn to do this summer is definitely learn how to swim. So
Yes. Yes. Get that done. That's very important.
I'm also afraid to admit that I'm not the best swimmer of all either. I came from a landlocked country, comrade, so I didn't even see the open ocean until I was like 11. So I didn't really have a chance with that. But yeah, I'm basically doing it. So this heat has been really treacherous. I mean, I shouldn't talk. I know, Director Akilé, you're in Florida, so I shouldn't talk about how hot it is up here, but it's been really annoying because I'm a runner. I like to go out and really get my heartbeat running. Every time I do like a mile or 2 miles, I'm like, ooh, like I'm in my zone. But this heat has made me stay inside, comrades. Like I haven't have been a homebody, so I'm suffering just a wee bit from that.
Yeah, that's definitely felt. I know the heat dome and the heat waves have been kind of having us all in a chokehold. So I can't even be the primary one to complain anymore because every time I turn on the news reports, it's like sweltering, record breaking heat. And, of course, and we've discussed it, and the party has summed this up. That's colonialism, the whole, just environmental shift that we're seeing. Like, that is so every aspect of colonialism, that's why we're struggling against it, so that we can be free and we don't have to be chokehold by a heat wave
right.
and things like that. So welcome in everybody. Welcome, welcome. Um, Welcome to season 2 of One Africa Worldview podcast. And I am your director of media and communications, Akilé and for the African People's Socialist Party under the leadership of Chairman Omali Yeshitela. And I am honored to be back for season 2 of One Africa Worldview.
Uhuru, yes. And I am Solyana. I am still your managing editor for the Burning Spear newspaper. Believe it or not, we're still going strong. And I also am really excited to be back for season 2 of One Africa Worldview with my beautiful co-hosts. Uhuru.
Yes, yes, yes. And Uhuru family, I'm Dr. Mariah representing BP 96 as promotions manager, and I am thrilled to join the mic and be back for season 2 of One Africa Worldview as the voice of the people. And let's get into it, y'all.
Yes. For those who do not know, One Africa Worldview is a program hosted by Burning Spear Media, the official news organ of the African People's Socialist Party, giving you news and analysis from the African internationalist perspective, the theory and worldview that guides our strategy towards African revolution. And African internationalism is a theory that was developed by Chairman Omali Yeshitela, and the implementation of this ideology can be seen in the work of our party dating back to its founding in 1972, because the objective is not just to explain the world, right? It's to change it. And that's funny. That'll come back up later. But so the practice of African internationalism can actually be seen, found. It's been tested in the real world through the work of the African People's Socialist Party. And African internationalism declares that the fundamental contradiction confronting African and all oppressed people on the planet is colonialism, and further, the colonial mode of production. African internationalism tells us that we are one African people dispersed around the world as a consequence of slavery and colonial assault. We are a nation that's 2 billion strong and counting.
Right. And if you stick around, we're going to dive into that particular point, especially. So, if you're watching live with us right now and you're in unity with or want to hear more about African internationalism, then subscribe to our channel now. You can get us to 15,000 subscribers. So, join the effort to end the shadow banning of anti colonial free speech. which is a speech that challenges the existence and ideas of colonialism and the system that it built.
That's right, Comrade Solyana. I mean, we over here, we're covering the latest stories and we bring you the truth. And that truth that they never wanted you to hear. And we're using our African internationalism to set the record straight. And so we don't wait any longer. Subscribe now. Keep up with the African Revolution via the Burning Spear TV, YouTube, and our Burning Spear Media Rumble channel.
Yes. Go ahead and subscribe. Hit that subscribe button right now. It's not hard. It takes like 2 seconds of your time. So go ahead and hit that button. So before we continue on with our show, I would just like for all of us to take a moment to recognize and announce the passing of our beloved comrade who worked with us on the Burning Spear newspaper. He was a member of the Black is Back Coalition and the African People's Socialist Party, an advocate for political prisoners. He was working with What's Happening, a Blog Talk Radio with also comrade who passed, Ralph Pointer, and Sister Betty Davis. And, you know, this comrade is Brother Sayero. And Comrade Sayero, he fought until the very end. He was pushing past a host of health contradictions and, you know, made no excuses, continued to contribute to the African liberation struggle. And that is his legacy. And, you know, so we just really want to uphold and salute our brother Sayero and say, long live Uhuru. So this episode is for you, Comrade Sayero. And also, it's not just a special episode because it's our season 2 launch, but the One Africa Worldview podcast will be part of the programming lineup on Black Power 96 Radio, 96.3 FM in St. Petersburg, Florida, and streaming online through the Black Power 96 mobile app. That's right, guys. We are expanding beyond YouTube, Rumble. Yes. We are going to the FM radio.
We're doing it.
Yes. So we're not only on your FM dial, and it's not just any radio station, it's Black Power 96.3 FM we're talking about. Let me say again. Black Power. Right. Black Power 96 Radio is 100% funded through donations from listeners and supportive businesses. You, literally you, those who are watching this or listening to us right now, you, our viewers, you power institutions like Black Power 96. That means the Democratic or Republican parties don't get to dictate what airs on this station, what we get to talk about. You do. You dictate that because you are the ones making those contributions to keep this station on air. The people are the power behind Black Power 96 Radio.
Exactly. Like this is the voice of the people, and that's how it's expressing itself in BP 96, right? Black Power 96, right? So to do our part, my co-host and I of the One Africa Worldview podcast, we are raising funds for Black Power 96 Radio, which again is an important platform for our community to discuss the African liberation struggle, you know, in the way that we wanted without getting shadowed, without being, you know, told what to say and what not to say. And, you know, Black Power 96's goal through the month of July is to raise at least $10,000 in donations through its July fund drive. And the One Africa Worldview has a goal to raise $1,000 towards that and more if you've got it to give. So, you know, stick around. And after the show, I'm sure you're going to want to give all the dollars to this event. So we are calling on donations from you, our One Africa Worldview viewers, and you can make your donation today. And we will announce it on the air as you do so. So you can go now to blackpower96.org/Africa. That's blackpower96.org/Africa to make your contribution, or you can even call. You can call 888-979-2796. That's 888-979-2796. So we're making this accessible. Okay, there's no excuse to be like, oh, I don't got cash. Oh, you can access as comrades. So if you're watching online right now, you can also scan the QR code on the screen or visit the link below. Director Akilé is pointed to it right now. If you can give $5, $10, or if you can drop the whole $1K right now, if you got it like that, you know, let's support the station that supports you, right? You are investing in Black Power when you donate to Black Power 96. So donating to Black Power 96 Radio keeps this community station on the air. And we'll just tell you a little bit about what it actually supports. So the Black community having its own radio station, right? First and foremost. and self-reliant community-controlled media capacity in the hands of the African working class, right? So it is controlled and dictated by us, right? It's not just a branding strategy when we say Black community control having its own voice, right? And Black Power 96 is just a project, is one of many projects of the African People's Education and Defense Fund, APEDF, which has a 30-year track record of, developing institutions for African economic development and self-determination. So supporting the station means you're forwarding that really profound mission of APEDF.
Yes, and speaking of APEDF, we want to give a special shout out to the APEDF president, Onazene Ishitela, leading the baddest nonprofit on the planet, transforming entire communities through economic development, pushing back the efforts and effects of gentrification through the economic empowerment of the African working class. When I say the sisters in the Uhuru movement are on fire, case in point, President Onazene is the proof. So, and I'm seeing now some donations currently rolling in. So as those donations start rolling in, let's roll right on in to our primary objective, what the people are waiting for so anxiously. Let's talk about the Essence Fest and the fallout with this whole concept notion of tethers versus ADOS. Dr. Mariah, you were there on the ground at Essence Fest representing Black Power 96 Radio. So can you tell us about that experience?
Yes, certainly, Uhuru. And definitely want to welcome us back to season 2 of our One Africa Worldview podcast. And we just want to make sure that you know that we don't just talk culture over here. We break it down. We break down those barriers, and we always keep it rooted where? In freedom. So now on today's episode, which is a special episode, this one's from inside the pulse of that Black culture, because we just actually, as Director Akilé said, we returned from one of the most, I'd say, electrifying, some would say empowering, and I mean, let's just be real, even complicated cultural events of the year. And I mean, this is Essence Fest 2025. It was held in New Orleans. And baby, when I say it was alive, it was alive. It was a soul. It was our sparkle. It was even contradictions. It was questions. And it was every bit of us. And now in today's episode, we're diving into something heavy here. But before we do all of that, I want to lay kind of a groundwork here. What a moment that was just full of power, full of pride, and just full of our people. And again, I'm talking about that 31 years of the Essence Festival culture and what many call the Super Bowl of Black culture. And we're talking about a huge festival here, and sometimes it gets up to over 500,000 people a day. So while it's just a celebration on the surface, beneath the glitter and all that glow, there were some real tensions that were stirring, and tensions that we really need to talk about. But first, let me tell y'all, we were on the ground at the festival repping Black Power 96 hard, y'all, where our mission was simple. We wanted to capture that rhythm, capture the culture, and bring it straight back to you. And our taking a full, uncensored look at it all. So let's get right on to it. For 3 days straight, July 4th through 6th, New Orleans was not just a city, but it was actually the global capital of Black culture. The 2025 Essence Festival Culture, presented by Coca-Cola, welcomed hundreds of thousands of people from every corner of the diaspora. Baby, we gathered. And this year's theme, it was actually made for me, and it really hit different because it was just that. It was me, it was you, and it was all of us. And that's exactly what it felt like walking through the Ernest N. Morial Convention Center and the Caesars Superdome each night. It was Black, it was beautiful. And from the moment you walked into the convention center, the energy, it was alive. And you could feel the pulse, feel the people. And then, the hair laid, outfits crisp, cameras ready. But what did we really, really witness? We witnessed a congregation of generations. Our elders mixed with the creative, mixed with the activists, mixed with celebrating foodies and the fashionistas, all alike and coming together. And so all y'all know, Comrade Talmadge and I, we picked up our coverage with our media credential picks up and quickly moved into joining that celebration, as I keep saying, that beauty, the brilliance, and just that Black excellence, that it was all around us. And I have to say, when it comes to our people, as always, fashion and style, that stood right there front and center. And just think of all the bold colors, kente prints, bedazzled boots, all the matching group t-shirts. And of course, everybody had those fans on deck. So culture, I mean, it was alive. And when it came to that culture, it was the hair. Like I said, the kids say the drip, the steam of that soul food rising in those aisles, vendors across, I mean, just filling the space with Black oils, Black books being discussed, Black jewelry designs on display, Black fashions, and Black affirmations. They had the Essence Authors Pavilion, BeautyCon, and GU Creator House that were set up. And these were just kind of temples of that African imagination. So yeah, day one, it gave us a full plate, y'all. And I say that really literally and figuratively. We walked the convention floor. We met Black-owned business owners. They sold everything. They were selling it all, skincare stuff, clothing, vintage collectibles, that was wellness products, and even handcrafted arts made by African hands. So we checked out some of the food. The vendors there, they plated some specialties. They had stuff like crawfish, macaroni, ramen noodle gumbo, and some sweet potato beignets. And those things, they were so good, literally melt in your mouth. But one of the biggest draws of the year was this year at Essence Fest was actually something called the BeautyCon. And that's where Black-owned brands like Camille Rose, Kaleidoscope Hair, and Canvas Beauty, they took really center stage in this area. And their booths were all packed with fans. They were waiting to grab the samples, snap some pictures, and meet with those powerhouse owners behind all those favorite products. And so from the edge control demos to full-blown product giveaways, I mean, that energy over there in the BeautyCon, that was high too. And the line showed it. Those lines stayed long throughout the entire festival. And BeautyCon wasn't just about glam. It was a celebration, and that celebration of African entrepreneurship, self-care, and a community of connection. So we had our creative corners that were set up, and they had stuff like live painters, author showcases, and live podcast tapings. And speaking of, I do want to give a shout out to the Melanin and Method podcast for holding space for real talk during this festival. And over at the Suede Lounge, it was a setup just for our Black men at the festival. It was actually a vibe, really, all of its own. And think almost like a chill cigar lounge setup. They had the pool table over there, barbershop, like that talk energy. And some discussions from the brothers, too. They tackled some stuff like fatherhood, the legacy to mental health, and even relationships. You know, all kinds of man talk. And just speaking with, we asked some of those festival attendees, we want you to describe what Black power means to you and just give us 3 words. And some of the most common answers were freedom, family, and future. Freedom, family, and future. So by the second day on Saturday, that culture, it was still spilling over. And I mean, from Nigeria to New York, from London to even down to Louisiana, it was really a global family reunion. It was a cookout, and inside that convention center, baby, that it was even more alive on that day. Every booth, every vendor, from oils and waist beads to the fresh press books, and I mean, just all those banging hair products, it told a story. And let me talk about BeautyCon real quick again. This was really a whole world inside of itself. And these sisters gathered here to really line up for those samples. They had the styling tips from stylists, their selfies with all the owners, as I mentioned earlier. And it just wasn't about hair and stuff like that. It was really just about coming together, healing, that sisterhood, ownership even. And I mean, we had different people taken to the stage with Black hair care lines. We had Congressman Jasmine Crockett speaking with Boazama St. Jane, just reminding us that when they come for how you look, it really ain't about your looks. It's about power. And speaking of power, we had that chance to chat with some really amazing folks. We spoke with the legendary Lynn Whitfield, who was, just glowing. Y'all, she talked about legacy, while Black women's stories, they need to be centered. We spoke with Master P about coming through with that real talk on building just Black wealth and staying true to the block you came from, with something that he pointed out. And let me not forget my girl Juno, the burlesque legend and showstopper. And she was over there doing meet and greets and showing the crowd that when it comes to sensuality and art, it is and has been for us too. So back over there at the Suede Lounge on Saturday, Essence carved out a space, like I said, just really for the fellas. And the timepiece collection discussion was going on, and that was held by Terrence J. Featured some other key moments just across the festival weekend with other speakers over there like the actor Lance Gross and the ever so smooth Silver Fox Squad. They really made an appearance over there too that everyone's excited about. And I mean, it's just really the space brought African men together in a way that they spoke legacy, wellness, fatherhood, and just really that power of the presence and may I not forget, in style. And of course, Essence made space for our queer family. T.S. Madison, Tamar Braxton, Niecy Nash, they lit up a queer space celebration. And I mean, T.S. said it loud. She said, quote, "I'm one of the blackest MFers around, period." And from Big Frida to Funky Dineva, Miss Lawrence to Derek J, it was fierce, it was fun, it was family. And Black queerness showed up and showing that queer presence is central to the culture, not just an accessory to it. And you already know, BP 96 continued to capture every moment from back in the press room to the convention floor. I mean, moments of laughter and moments of, just really Black togetherness. And the festival discussion panels featuring talents like Candy Burris, Kiki Palmer, and even Eddie Murphy continue to tackle everything from Black wealth building to wellness, fashion, and filmmaking. All of it, y'all. They had local African artists even painting live on the floor. They had dancers turning the areas into their own full stage. And every person you bumped into, they had a story to tell, a story worth telling, and a story worth hearing. And we're talking with these festgoers. We really received in just hearing stuff like, "This is my recharge," one sister told us, and another group they were just so excited to share that. We come every year to remember who we are. And let's not forget the artist interviews. We did get to chat with some creatives, but not only from New Orleans, but really from all across the globe. And ones that you know, and ones that we listen to, and ones that you will know. And I tell you, they had it all there. And they were able to showcase their work and speak truth to power. And that's what really matters. And just really approaching that third day, things were moving and just as exciting as day one and day two. And that energy just really only building more and more across that weekend, really, y'all. And at night, that Superdome, now the Superdome, it turned into a time. Friday night, they had Lauryn Hill. And Lauryn Hill really just showed out in true fire. Saturday night, they had Jill Scott, and she actually sang her revised version of the national anthem that really just, that stops time. And when it comes to Patty, Jasmine, Jill, all the people, they really brought that Philly soul, as we say, and it really did that whole Philly John celebration. On Sunday, they had Boys to Men, they had Quincy Jones, Stephanie Mills, they had Tamala Mann. That's just really just to name a few. And also, I can't forget, they had Master P's final hometown performance. And now, me being from New Orleans, that really was a full circle moment for me and all of the festival attendees to take a part of that. But when I say this festival wasn't just about music and panels, it was really about the presence. And it was about the presence of our people. And BP 96, we showed up. We scouted artists for our local Going Global series. We met with vendors and creators and visions. And that stretched far beyond just really that fest, y'all. And the love we got from the shout outs to affirmations, folks really show love for BP 96 and what we stand for. And Black Power 96 certainly thanks Essence Festival, Sundial Media, and Coca-Cola for inviting us to be a part of it all. Now, I have to keep it real because that's what we do here. And although we didn't see it or feel it there was some talk on socials, and we saw that, heard it in the streets too about the vibe of this year's fest, y'all. And some folks were really just saying that with the new owner, Richard Lou Dennis, and he's actually the founder and chairman of Essence Ventures. They own some other brands like Shea Moisture and Lip Bar, but Rich is a brother from Kenya. And he is the key figure now behind the ownership and operation of both not only Essence Magazine, but also this festival. And some say that it took ownership, and that ownership, it felt, quote, too African, and that maybe Essence was now moving away from our African-American roots. And And not to leave out the whole Jala versus Jambalaya talk too that we heard over and over. And y'all know how we like to do one Africa Worldview. We heard it, so you already know we're going to talk about it. So because that conversation, that tension between our African and foundational Black American identity, it's really real, y'all. And that deserves an unpacking here. So stay tuned, because in just a few minutes, we're going deep on this, and we're into the heart of that whole dialogue there in just One Africa, ADOS, FBAs, Tethers, diaspora unity, and how the Uhuru movement holds space for all Blackness as One Africa without erasing none of it. So Essence Fest 2025, it wasn't just a weekend. It really was a mirror. It reflected of where we've been, who we are now, and really where we're going. And it was a question. That question is, what does unity really look like across the diaspora? And how did Essence Fest capture that international African representation they sought? Because while Essence gathered us together, we couldn't help but notice there were layers. They had the Caribbean flags, African garments, that whole Southern style, of course, was present, and all under one roof. But are we actually building bridges here? Are we just parting on separate islands? I mean, so next up on this episode, we're getting right into it, and the real talk of it. As Africans, what's that divide? And what's holding us back for the unity? Stick around. You don't want to miss what's next. One of the institutions working to unite our people is none other than Black Power 96 Radio.
Uhuru. Thank you so much, Dr. Mariah, for that really thorough, detailed sort of summary of, Essence Festival. You touched on a lot of the contradictions, definitely. And just salute to you and Talmage and everybody else for representing Black Power 96, right? We're really representing the people out there. But yeah, speaking of Black Power 96, right? Black Power 96.3 FM, it gives us a chance on our FM dial to hear positive discussions and unifying presentations, including those given by Chairman Omali Shatella, right? Giving clarity on these kinds of questions that come up about African identity, right? And so if you're not listening to Black Power 96 Radio yet, you can fix that by tuning in on 96.3 FM in St. Pete, Florida. I'm gonna just go, just hitch a ride to Florida right now, so I could just tune in from Florida. Or you can also listen from anywhere on blackpower96.org or on the free Black Power 96 mobile app available on the App Store or Google Play. So, it turns out I don't really need to go all the way to Florida to listen to this amazing presentation. So whether you're a new or solidified listener, we're calling on you to donate to Black Power 96 during this special One Africa Worldview episode. We're raising at least $1,000 tonight, and you can get us there by visiting blackpower96.org/Africa, blackpower96.org/Africa, or you can call old school style 888-979-2796. That's 888-979-2796, and we have people there ready to take your call and write down your pledge. So, Comrade Mariah, are there actually any other possible ways people can donate?
You already know there are. So absolutely, Comrade Solyana. When it comes to the donation, you can give it Cash App. You can send it over to $ Black Power 96. You can mail a check over to Black Power 96 at 1245 18th Avenue South, St. Petersburg, Florida at 33705. Or you can just let us know your pledge in the chat, and we'll make sure we get that added there. And Black Power 96 will actually send you a thank you to everyone who donates today. And I mean, it just seems like people are listening. They want to hear stories from us by people like us. And because we've got donations, they're coming in, y'all. Donations coming in from everywhere. Let's just keep them coming. Let's check out some here. We see here, want to thank Lisa there for that $25 donation. We see Janice out of St. Petersburg with $100 donation. Thank you, Janice. We got Malcolm coming in on that Cash App with $15 donation. DJ Eddie out of St. Petersburg, Florida, actually Black Power 96 on with $50 there. And Sandy out of Olympia, Washington with $20 there. And we have Karen Smith, they're steadily coming on with, another $100. Yes, keep them coming, keep them coming. Like you said, the website, we have our Cash App. You can call, just give, keep giving.
Uhuru, I just want to make a note. I just want to salute Karen Smith, who's a longtime friend of the Uhuru Flea Market in Philadelphia. So right on, Comrade Karen. Thank you so much.
Right.
Yeah, so I want to definitely, thank you everyone for who donated, and I just want to, empower people for, to keep it coming, right? While we get into this Tethers tea. So Director Akilé, like Comrade Mariah mentioned, right, there's contradictions with Essence Fest as a whole, and there were specific criticisms made about it being centered around quote unquote global Blackness. So please provide the audience with an overview on this, as it is much needed.
Yes. One thing I hate is when like these new terms and stuff start developing and then you got all these like, brainiacs coming out of the woodwork starting to like, I don't know, just making up stuff. Like, okay, so now we're talking about global Blackness. Okay.
Right.
Well,
anyway. What, like,
yeah.
That?
Yeah. So, all right. But let's get into it with pleasure. Comrade Solyana, while we have many criticisms of gatherings like the Essence Festival, and I just want to shout out again, Comrade Mariah and Talmadge, those photos you saw, those are our comrades right there doing that at Essence Fest. So beautiful, okay? And it's just so great to have Black Pride 96, there and represented in those spaces. So just really want to salute to you. And we're not, this is not us necessarily upholding Essence Fest as like the be all end all, or even like the greatest expression of genuine African culture. We know it's not revolutionary African culture. So we'll have different kind of criticisms, but the one we don't unite with is one that has been coming from this sector of the, regardless of what they think about themselves, of the African population, who said that the event was too African. And Comrade Mariah mentioned about one of the organizers, or like main organizers, owners of the celebration being an African from the continent. So now it's too African. And this social media user on TikTok, and he's just one of many, was spouting this nonsense. The quote, Essence Fest used to be a celebration of Black American culture, the culture that is ours, the culture that we built from the ground up. And a bunch of Black Americans are not feeling it, talking about Essence. Africans don't set culture for this world. We do. Africans don't set culture for this world. We do. And he's talking about this idea of Black Americans, right? So and continues on, until Essence Fest gets back to the Black Americans who created it and founded it and lead the culture, it will continue to fail with those Africans in charge. Yikes. So social media users like Rob here are among this they call themselves American descendants of slaves, or ADOS, ADOS, or foundational Black Americans, or FBA, which is this trend that popped up not even 10 years ago. Okay. Like, it's not even, it's this random thing that just popped up. Well, not random, but it's not a coincidence that this coincides with the deepening of African national consciousness and anti-colonial uprisings over the last decade. Because what's happened within the last 10 years, you have Michael Brown, you've had George Floyd, and what in terms of what it sparked, these uprisings, you have Africans rising up in France, you have Africans rising up all over the continent, and it's connected to the uprisings happening by colonized people throughout the world, including in Palestine. So this identity, ADOS, FBA, it's coming at the same time that global African consciousness is being deepened. And these ADOS forces have graduated now from calling themselves Negroes or coloreds, because you remember it was the colonizer, white people, Americans, that said we were Negroes, we were coloreds, and then they were like, okay, now you can be African Americans. So these Africans are now taking it upon themselves to give themselves another really what am I looking for? What's the word I'm looking for? Kind of insulting definition, this American descendants of slaves, as a means of distinguishing themselves from the overall dispersed African nation. And they've defined African people that are not born in the US as quote unquote tethers. And this is a relatively recent and divisive politic seen among a small, very small, but they're loud. So this is why we got to address it, because they're loud. And so it's a loud sector of Africans that are born in the US and was literally formed as a hashtag. So this whole identity and movement, I hesitate to use the word movement, was formed as a hashtag first, attributed to African petty bourgeois forces from their computers in the comforts of suburbia somewhere. So this is their history. The timing of its insidious development suggests that the colonial state is behind ADOS FBA trend, because who really benefits from a divided African nation? The colonizer. So who would make it their business to, create divisive rhetoric inside the African community? The colonial state. And in its founders, the hashtag founders, a former Capitol Hill staffer, Yvette Carnell, and former Los Angeles District Attorney Antonio Moore, that take credit for its founding. So like we figured, like we said, the state, right? This ideological assault became prominent surrounding discussions of reparations to African people in the US. The ADOS trend declares that reparations are only owed to Black people within the borders of the US. But we got to note that reparations became a household word, became a demand on our lips as a consequence of the leadership of Chairman Amalia Shatella and the African People's Socialist Party. The same ADOS group that claims reparations are only owed to Black people born in the US couldn't even have this discussion about reparations had it not been for the first World Tribunal on Reparations to African People, organized by our party in Brooklyn, New York in 1982. So Yvette Carnell and Antonio Moore and these forces did not invent or not leaders in the reparations movement, never have been. And so you have these forces who now randomly get to speak on reparations. We define the reparations movement. When I say we, I say the African People's Socialist Party and Chairman Amalia Shatella. Chairman Amalia alone quantified what was owed to African people in stolen labor alone. He deepened our understanding of the true consequences of slavery and colonialism by calling on us to consider all that Africa has produced for the world under the colonial mode of production. Africa's natural resources that power the homes and cell phones of the US and Europe and elsewhere, the labor and genius of Africa's daughters and sons, where did that all go? And the culture that we've produced in the land that we were forcibly brought to is an extension of Africa. The instruments, the rhythm, the fashion, the food, we've replicated from Ghana to the Caribbean. I mean, I eat collard greens here and I eat callaloo. Like, it's what are we talking about? Like the dishes, like it's Africa. It's Africa. What we can scream from the mountaintop that we're something else, but the reality is the things and the customs and everything that we are engaged in now are a consequence of what Africa gave to us. And it's despite this amnesia and the assault on our consciousness, the fact is that there is still this this within us that recognizes our African identity, even as you have forces that are trying to really push it outside of their heads. And had it not been for the slave trade, there would be no blues, there would be no spirituals within US borders. So no one is stealing quote unquote Black American culture. That doesn't exist. Like, Black culture is African culture, and Black cultural expression exists in America because of our relationship to Africa. How can Africa, the source of civilization and the homeland of Black people, be a tether to anything? And no matter how you slice it, no matter how much one attempts to reject it, the time we've spent in foreign lands against our will does not change who we are, African people. And the chairman has extensively covered this question of African national identity, including in this presentation that we're going to play that he made at a conference in Huelva, Spain in 2007. So, this right here, this presentation of the chairman just really gets into, he's presenting at this conference that's hosted by a non-governmental organization in Spain to speak to this question. So let me get into this, but comrades, just quickly, I want to just jump in and to kind of unpack a little bit what I said as I get this pulled up.
Yeah, no, I just really appreciate like that whole rundown, because I think you really put the discussion into the context of like what's happening with Essence Fest, right? And I really appreciate that analysis because, one of the things that comes up too is if you look at ADOS discourses on, on the interwebs and everything, is that this whole notion of like disaggregation, right? It's this idea that, separating apart African people in the US from the whole of, African people as, as a dispersed nation. Like, that's how it's being conceptualized in order to sort of justify this ideology, right? But the thing is, like, what real benefit is there from disaggregating our struggles, from saying that, everything that Black people face here in the US is separate from the colonialism that African people face in Africa, right? It comes from that same source. So this whole idea of disaggregation and this whole idea of, well, we face this, so reparations owed to us is so unproductive and backward, because that's what the colonizer wants, right? If we're dividing our struggles as if they don't come from the same source, we can't unite on that. How can we unite if we see our struggles as antagonistic to each other? And that's only productive for the colonial system. That's only going to work against our own interests. But that's something that I don't think ADOS even conceptualizes, because of this notion of disaggregation, or just, well, we're like this because of this, and you guys were like that because of that. Like, okay, we're just splitting hairs, so
yeah. Well, let's get into this presentation from Chairman Amalia Chatella in Huelva, Spain.
I do not think it would be appropriate for me, leaving the United States, to come and speak to such an august body without publicly expressing the fact that there are a number of us who live in the United States who are opposed to colonialism, however it looks, in whatever period of time it exists. So I want to say that first of all. Secondly, I would like to say that my esteemed comrade here, when we first met, asked me the question of whether I am aware of the roots of my family in Africa. My answer is no. And beyond that, I told him that I am not curious as to where my family comes from in Africa. And the reason I am not curious of where my family comes from in Africa is because Africa today, trapped in artificial borders created by imperialism in 1884 and 85, is too involved now with ethnic politics and politics based on some assumption to a relationship to an artificial nation, which in most instances did not exist before the Berlin Conference of 1884 and 85. I am an African. That is good enough for me. I am one who understands that although I live in the United States of America, that it would be impossible for an African to get on a ship in Africa as an African, to arrive in America and become something else. If I was an African when I got on the ship in Africa, I had to be an African when I got off the ship in America. So we were Africans then, we're Africans now. And that is the perspective that I come from.
We're right. We were Africans then, we are Africans now, right? That is the historical position to have, right? And I just really appreciated that summary by Chairman Chatella. And another contradiction also with the Essence Fest is that it's not a place for leadership for African people, especially African workers. So it can't even, challenge this criticism and respond scientifically. So even though it's a problem that puts forward a platform that puts forward African culture, it's not a platform that's owned and controlled by African people, right? The festival was sponsored by Coca-Cola after all. So, Essence Fest can be seen as the vehicle that's going to promote our interests, our agenda for self-determination. But Black Power 96 Radio can be seen as one of those vehicles, which is why we're urging everyone, again, to listening right now to donate to blackpower96.org/Africa, or you can Cash App $Black Power 96. Our show is raising $1,000 of the overall $10,000 goal that the station has to get this month. And, this is even more crucial at a time that the U.S. government is, cutting funding to public access media and making, the colonial bourgeois media the dominant news engine, even though it's the same administration that relentlessly critiques said media, right? So we can push back against this by funding the platforms that serves us by ourselves with our own labor and our own intentions, right? So if you want to pledge a donation, you can let us know in the chat as well.
Right, that's right. And you can follow the example of sustaining donors. That's the sustaining donors that contribute monthly to BP96. And just some of those sustaining donors, we do want to give a shout out to MQ, Jamie, Johan, Janice, and Diane over in Florida, Matsamela, Mwezi, and Ina in California, Absalom in New York, Aisha in Alabama, Jamal, Leah, and Sarah over in Minnesota. We have Fofi, Brendan, Kitty, Allison, Ruby, and Stephanie in Missouri, Michael in Wisconsin, Emmanuel in Maryland, Raya in Illinois, Sandy and Janet over in Washington, Virginia and Indiana, Renee in Pennsylvania, and Anne in Ecuador. Ecuador, you heard that. All over, we have these donations coming in. All over, we have support. Community radio for the community, Black Power 96. And just as we said, you could donate. You could donate online. You could donate at the Cash App. You could send in your pledge. You can type it here in your chat. Give what you can. You pledge that donation. Let us know in the chat and become one of these sustaining donors. And we want to thank and salute you all for that steady donations and to keep Black Power 96 on the air, and want to encourage our listeners to become those sustainers themselves. And you can send in donations at blackpower96.org/Africa. That's blackpower96.org/Africa. You can Cash App at $Black Power 96, or you can call 888-979-2796. That's 888-979-BP96.
Yes, thank you so much. And reminder too that we have a QR code right up on the screen there, so you can also scan that to go directly to the link. And this time is like flying by, and we've got of course our support, and we also got people really big mad about facts, about truth. Like you have subjectivity, like what you hold on to, your feelings, the things in your head, but then you have reality, and it's the people's reality. They're trying to like make it match what is in their head. And unfortunately, the reality that we are colonized, that we are here as a consequence of being captured and stolen and robbed from Africa, and are here, and that everything that we've produced as a consequence of being captured and forced to produce here is something that was robbed from Africa itself. So that's just a matter of historical record. This is not our opinion. This is not how we feel, but it's just the reality of the situation. We are one African people. We were snatched, dispersed, and then we were given all these different identities by the colonizer. We didn't come to a table and say, oh, this is who we are now. This was the colonizer who designated these identities for us as a matter of confusion, and to separate and to isolate us. We're 2 billion strong, but we over here 13% of the population inside the US. Crazy. So one of the things as we wrap up, because I really want to stress the significance of Black Power 96 Radio, especially as we're engaged in a struggle like this, because we're engaged in a struggle. We're engaged in a political and ideological struggle. We are in the process of uniting the African nation. And despite what seems like loud and overwhelming voices, the fact is the majority of the people on the planet, African people, recognize this question, recognize this relationship, and are fighting against the colonizer. And when you ask ADOS, FBA what they are fighting against, you don't get an answer. What is the answer? What is the to what end? What does ADOS, FBA want? Why would African people, Black people, follow them? And where will we be following you to? And that's a question they cannot answer, but African internationalists can. We can say our objective, we can identify the contradiction, colonialism, the colonial mode of production, and then we've organized and developed a strategy and a theory to scientifically sum this up and to say this is where we have to go in order to know peace, prosperity, and power in our own hands, to determine who we are and our relationship to the rest of the world. That's what African internationalism has done. That's what Chairman Amalia Shatella has done. And that's what these forces, who are barely 10 years old, not even older than my brother and sister, like they cannot give that to you because it's not rooted in any kind of historical process. It's an invention by the colonial state, just as the various tools that have been used to divide and conquer African people. That's why there's something like, what, 54 countries in Africa. Those weren't countries that Africans determined ourselves. Those were borders that were codified by the colonizer at the Berlin Conference, where there were no Africans present there to make those determinations. So it's the same divisive tactics then as it is right now, regardless of if it's or independent of the consciousness of those forces who identify, as ADOS, African American, doesn't matter. This is the reality though. And I just want to say that I had the privilege of attending a gospel concert in St. Pete, which is home of Black Power 96 Radio. And it was organized by the station manager and local legend, Eddie Maultsby, who, by the way, is 100% blind, but that don't stop anything. And at this concert, I'm listening to the performances, and there's this one sister, her name is Sight, and I've seen her perform many times. And every time she gets the audience on their feet with the rhythm of her tambourine. And as I'm watching her and all these other sisters in the audience who bring their own tambourines to the church, and they just instinctively join in, and it is infectious, and they all on beat, and it's like nobody has to train or choreograph or anything. It just happens so naturally. And I'm watching this, and I'm waving my baby's rattle in unison. I'm like, I ain't got no tambourine, but I got my baby rattle right here. And I'm struck by how clear the influence of Africa is in our lives, despite 500 years of having our collective memory erased. And it's just tangible evidence that instantly contradicts anything that, ADOS, this ideology, is saying. And I just want to show that, because it's just like breathtaking and very powerful to have, witness. Look, I'm calling sabotage. Okay, somebody get back to working.
Wow. Well, I don't know about y'all, but that was Africa. Okay, like that was.
Yeah, that one rhythm, that one beat, that wow.
Yeah, and
felt
I just, having to follow director Akilé's summation after that, Lord have mercy. That's terrifying. But I just really unite with everything that she put forward. And, I just feel like a lot of this seems like, a desperate sort of begging, that's sort of asking that, oh, Director Akilé, you're back. We lost you for a second. Can you hear us okay? Yes. Okay.
Yes, I can. I'm like, no, this is not
I was like, are we even live still? I hope we are. I'm gonna just keep
no, y'all keep going.
Okay,
That's fine.
It's fine. But yeah, going back to what Director Akilé was talking about, and then just thinking about this video too, right? Like the whole thing with ADOS, FBA, like it's a desperate sort of begging that's, asking the US state, right? This colonial capitalist entity that guns down African people, right? Damn near on a daily basis, if not on a daily basis. It's asking if Black people can be part of that system, if Black people can be a part of that colonial project, as if this colonial project, doesn't exist on the exploitation of African people and the rejection of African people as active makers of their own history, right? And so I think that's a really important thing to understand too when you're thinking about the history of African people and this inability to come to terms with this inherent part of who we are as African people. So I just wanted to make that note.
Yeah. Well, I thank you. I appreciate you, Comrade, so much, and also for jumping in, and I'm glad we were able to see this. Just, you know, for people that didn't get to be there to witness that, you know, this incredible gospel concert. But I just wanted to also, you know, again emphasize that this is why you should support Black Power 96 Radio, because it's not just, you know, a means of you know, providing like good music, and because it does all that. It gives you critical information, political education, good empowering music, all that stuff. But it also provides opportunities to the African working class community through volunteering, broadcast journalism, and other training. It has the Local Going Global program that puts unsigned or independent artists before the entire African nation, not just limited to the US, and so much more. And it's also a platform that tells our stories and unites the African community. And I mentioned that we had a gospel concert, and that's a statement right there. The station brings together the people regardless of faith and unites them to the struggle for Black power. And what other station can say that? So it's on us to make sure that this station has our full support and can be successful. So let's make that donation right now to blackpower96.org/Africa right now. And I want to just go ahead and hear a word from station manager Eddie Maultsby, you know, talking about his role and his favorite quote from Chairman Omali Yeshitela.
My name is Eddie Lee Maultsby Jr. I live in St. Petersburg, Florida. I want to salute Chairman Omali Yeshitela, leader and founder of the Uhuru movement, and Deputy Chair Owners Dene Yeshitela, the president of the African People's Education and Defense Fund. My leadership title here is station manager for Black Power 96.3, the baddest station in the world. And I joined the party, the African People's Socialist Party, about 5 years ago. I'm proud to be a member.
And what makes APSP better than the rest?
Because of the truth, the honesty, and the transparency of what they believe in and how they move.
And what's one reason someone should join the APSP?
Because there's no other organization that is going to do exactly what I said. Bring you the truth, make it transparent that you're living in a colonial state, in a colonial system, and the system has to change.
And your favorite revolutionary quote by Chairman Omali Yeshitela?
You got on the boat as an African, you get off the boat as an African.
Uhuru!
Yes, Uhuru. So that was not playing when he said that. It was like, what? Oh, okay, perfect. We'll drop that right in here. So comrades, we are down to the end of the hour, and it's like, how do we get here?
By this hour goes.
Oh, wow.
And I just want to encourage people to read works by Chairman Omali Yeshitela on this particular issue of the question of the African nation. So many videos, so many presentations, speeches. One Africa, One Nation, Comrade Solyana. Oh yes, the verdict is in. Reparations now. There, that talks about the 1982 tribunal. Yes, Omali Yeshitela speaks. And I'm sure she's her Vanguard and Uneasy Equilibrium. So you can find all of those at the burningspear.store. You can purchase these books, and you can also subscribe to the Burning Spear TV on YouTube to, you know, access videos and presentations by Chairman Omali Yeshitela that goes over this specific topic, because you don't have to leave here believing in us and everything that we said. But you know, you can find all of this information, and it's accessible. African internationalist theory is accessible out in the world, and you know, people are using it and saying it, and they don't credit the chairman, but it's out there. These ideas are out there because of Chairman Omali Yeshitela, and we can again continue to hear these ideas on Black Power 96 Radio. And regardless of if you agree with the ideas or not, the fact is, do you get to have these types of discussions anywhere else? That's another fundamental question, because regardless if you agree with us or not, the fact is the colonial state is always trying to shut down media entities like this. And you have to ask yourself why. It's because conversations that lead you to the truth about who you are and what you have to do as a consequence of knowing who you are, they don't want you to have access to that. And so you should support our right to anti-colonial free speech and the African working class right to anti-colonial free speech, and donate to an institution that promotes and uplifts the voices of African people, of Black people, wherever it is that we are, to talk about our issues, to talk about things we agree with and disagree with, and are able to unite and come to certain conclusions about how to move our struggle forward. So again, scan that QR code. If you're a Cash Apper, you can Cash App $ Black Power 96. You can go to the website blackpower96.org/Africa. Can somebody give us that phone number one more
It
time?
was 888, and I'm trying to find it. I know it starts with 888.
888-979-2796. That's 888-979-BP96.
Right.
Yes. Thank you so much. And just want to acknowledge some of those donors. We've mentioned Comrade Lisa in Minneapolis with $25, Comrade Janice in St. Petersburg with $100, Comrade Malcolm, who came in through the Cash App, with $15, Comrade Eddie Maultsby with $50, Comrade Sandy in Olympia with $20, Karen Smith out there in Philadelphia. Shout out to Comrade Karen with $100. Then we have sister, I apologize, or brother, I apologize. Shinike.
That sounds
Shineke. I am so sorry. Watching us on YouTube. First time listener from Houston. Woohoo! First time listener. With $10. Thank you, Comrade. It's great to have you. Comrade MQ in Florida with $30. Comrade Penny in St. Louis with $100. Uhuru, Comrade Penny. I should have known I would have seen MQ's name on here twice. Comrade MQ, $15 more. And Comrade Marvin in North Carolina with $10. Uhuru. Oh, and Comrade MQ said, Sayero, long live. Yes, Uhuru, salute to Comrade Sayero. Long live. And comrades, we've raised $475 of our overall $1,000 goal. And we have to wrap up this show just right after our announcements. But I just want to keep encouraging you to go to that website, blackpower96.org/Africa, make the contribution that you can to support this effort. We know, we just saw in the news that they just cut funding to public, access media and things like that. So your ability to access unbiased information, your ability to access information that's not always peddling Democratic or Republican Party nonsense is waning. But you have it in us. You have it in Black Power 96 Radio. So fund Black Power 96 Radio by making that donation today. And yeah, we're obviously going to have this conversation a lot more about African national
comments
identity.
looking like that. Yeah.
Comments are looking like we gotta educate. So with that, comrades, let's go ahead and get into our wrap up. Let's tell the people what's happening, because you don't just have to listen to us, you can actually experience us, connect with us right there on the ground. Comrade Mariah, tell us what we got coming up.
Yeah, Uhuru. Well, we want to join the northern region of the African People's Socialist Party on Tuesday, July 22nd at 7 p.m. Eastern for our bi-weekly Spear Studies as we continue to read from The Theory of African Internationalism, chapter From an Uneasy Equilibrium by Chairman Amalia Shatella. You can register at tinyurl.com/North Region Study. That's tinyurl.com/North Region Study. And when we fight, we win. 3 years after the FBI raids on the Uhuru movement, victory on the horizon. Join the Hands Off Uhuru Fight Back Coalition on Saturday, July 26, 2025 for a webinar and special fundraiser for the Uhuru 3 appeal on the 3-year anniversary of the brutal FBI raids on the Uhuru movement. We will launch our campaign to repeal FARA and conspiracy laws used to silence anti-colonial free speech. The powerful Uhuru 3 legal team will sum up the significance of our victory, including the recently filed appeal. And you can register for the webinar at handsoffyahoo.org/Uhuru3. That's handsoffyahoo.org/Uhuru3. And if you find yourself over in St. Louis on July 26th, you can check out the One Africa, One Nation Farmers Market. And that's the hub for Black-owned businesses, grassroots organizing, and African self-determination out in St. Louis, Missouri. And don't miss your chance to be a part of this vibrant movement. And the market will be from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. on O'Fallon Park at 4343 West Florissant Avenue. That's O'Fallon Park at 4343 West Florissant Avenue. And of course, as you all know, we are in the midst of our July fund drive for Black Power 96.3 FM. So if you haven't had a chance to donate already, you can make your donation right at blackpower96.org/Africa. That's 96.org/Africa. Uhuru.
Uhuru, thank you for letting us know. And you can go to theburningspear.com/events for everything upcoming. And also just want to shout out Kevin, who super chatted us $10. Thank you so much, Kevin.
Yeah.
Oh, my girl Bobby, I know that's you, with $15 as well, getting us halfway to our goal. Yes, getting us halfway to our goal of $500. So One Africa Worldview got some work to do to raise that last $500 to get Black Pride 96 to its goal, overall $10,000 goal for the July member drive. So thank you all so much for tuning in and donating today. We really appreciate it. Thank you, for all of, you just viewing, your support, sharing this, subscribing to our channel, and to my lovely co-hosts. It's good to be back, y'all. Thank you for tuning in. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and join us again on One Africa Worldview every Monday, 5 p.m. Eastern time on the Burning Spear TV YouTube and Burning Spear Media Rumble channels. One Africa.
One nation.
Uhuru.